one more time. There you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
There it
What's
is.
up, man?
Oh, it's life is good. I ain't got no complaints. If I
I
did, it wouldn't do much good.
well, everything that's changed, though, so somebody complains somewhere about something. So
That's right.
you never know.
I'll let them have it.
Yeah. Man, this is too crazy. Anyway, so this is how I start the show. So I'm really good. And it's just conversation.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Los Angeles. Welcome back to this episode of Conversation With. I am just over the moon today. I'm telling you, I have a special guest that's beyond special. And I'm just so overwhelmed in so many ways because of how this man came back into my life, how I passed off again. And I will let him tell you about that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Carlos Wallace. Carlos, man. Oh my God. How
Thank
you
you for
doing,
having me.
man?
I'm
How
great.
are
I'm
you
great.
kidding me?
I'm great.
I'm so overjoyed by this. I mean, I've so much so that I've had to like suppress,
Oh
compress,
no.
for long, for like days.
Oh no.
Because it is just so overwhelming to be back in touch with you and then to be discovering all of these incredible things that you're doing. Carlos,
Thank you.
please
Thank you.
introduce yourself to those who may be watching for the first time. Welcome, all of you. And tell us a little bit about who Carlos Wallace is.
Well, I'm gonna start with just an old country boy from East Texas, because
I love
that's
that.
how that's how you met me. And
Yes.
even I don't know, 50 years ago, I'm still 40 years ago, I'm still that same old country boy from East Texas.
I love it.
And I say that I don't care what I accomplish, where I go, or who I meet, what table I sit at, or what room I'm in. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still that old country boy from East Texas.
I hear you. Don't you feel that Texas vibe?
That's right.
It's right. Texas is unique in that regard. And
I
we've
agree.
lived a lot of places, both of us, but you only find it like this
Right
in the
here.
state of Texas.
I agree. I agree. I
Wow.
agree. I
So
have
now,
never been ashamed of being from good old East Texas.
oh no. You know, you can take the boy out of Texas.
That's right.
You
But you can't
understand? So,
take Texas
no,
out of the
man,
boy.
there is something about being raised here, even in all of its madness, through all of that. But there's a spirit and a compassion for human beings, especially people of color, that you rarely find elsewhere the
That's
same way.
correct. I
And
agree.
I'm very proud of that.
I
But
agree.
now, guys, I don't want to get distracted. This man, I thought he was going to tell you, but I'm going to get it started. I met Carlos. See, I get so flustered. I was 20 years young, 19, turning 20. 20. I just turned 20. And I was at the eldest drama school in Texas, Lon Morris College in Jacksonville, Texas. I had never even heard of Jacksonville, Texas, until these people came and auditioned me for this school. Then I almost didn't go. I got in right under the wire at the last minute, one of the best choices I've ever made in my life. Anyway, long story short, I was cast in a play called The Last of Mrs. Lincoln. I was playing an ex-slave, of course, who had a grandson. And this young man was all of 9 years old, I think.
Yeah.
This little spitfire of all this genius energy and this light, who would just do anything, attempt, it didn't matter what it was, he just attacked it. 9 years young, he played my grandson, and he was absolutely brilliant. You understand me? This Carlos had a natural ability and a skill set that little young people years older probably still couldn't develop. It was just organic in you, man. And it was
Thank
the
you.
most incredible thing. We all loved him. We, we relished this little kid because you were just so open and so welcoming to all of us. You weren't afraid of nobody. I didn't think he had a fear in his body. He was not afraid of anybody that came in and out of the theater. And so he played my grandson. He was absolutely brilliant. Forward flash. I was sitting here about maybe 2 weeks ago or so, and I go through my phone and I see an email. I mean, a text, Facebook message. And I saw the name Carlos Wallace, and I started reading this thing. And I hollered because he said, "You may not remember me, whatever, blah, blah, blah." And he said, I freaked because I had not seen or heard from him since we closed that play all those years ago. And here we are. Look at God. Here we are today. And when I tell you this man is living a prolifically creative and responsible life. So now, Carlos, who are you?
I am an author, producer, award-winning filmmaker,
it's true.
mentor to many, and just to name, that's the short list.
Yeah, right.
A proud husband and father. You know, that goes above everything else.
Yes,
but most importantly, I'm a man of the people, and wherever there is a need for leadership or a person for mentorship, my phone just seems to ring, and I do the best I can to answer the call.
That's right. Starting right where you are, using what you have. I'll have to ask you to say that. Start where you are. Take what you have and do the very best you can with it. That is all you can do.
That's all you can do.
I'm telling you, this man has an order. He's got so much goodness going on. This is his book. I don't know if you can see it under these lights. And it's a wonderful read. It's a very easy read, but it embraces all of those rich family values and those simple anecdotes that the old folk used to beat us across the head with just in conversation. You understand? It's like having a conversation with everybody you know, your aunts, your uncles, all those folks, especially if you grow up in Texas, all those folk who used to, neighborhood folk who would sit you down in the street and say, "Shut up and listen." It's that kind of love, that kind of simplicity, but poignant. I love the book. I saved the last 2 chapters, the last chapter to read after we do our interview. Because my spirit said, read that after you talk to you. Because I think you're going to speak something different or something else, something more than what I probably would have gotten from just go ahead and read it.
Okay.
So, but I look forward. It's a wonderful read, guys. Life is not complicated. You are. I love this. And I just experienced something that really brings this title home. You know, we want to complicate life with so many things, you know, because we this and that and the third in our mind. Life is not complicated. We are. Go on, I'm sorry. You were saying.
The title, so my mentor, I have a mentor, and he don't know it, but he kind of helped me with that title.
Okay.
We were just talking one day, and he said, when you're born, God bless you with everything you need. And everything after that day, you add to that life, and it complicates it.
Oh, wow. And it's something, and it's very true.
It's very true. Very true.
Wow.
But the book, as you said, it's like sitting down with that. It doesn't have to even be a family member by blood, but that person in the neighborhood that tried to give you some advice when you were just a knucklehead and
That's
you
right.
thought
Mother
she did.
Williams.
Yeah, you say, oh, she don't know. She old.
Right,
Times are different,
right, right.
It's not the same as when you were my age.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all the same.
It's,
My daughter,
I'm
one of
telling
my
you.
daughters told me once, she said, Dad, you just don't understand. And that time I was 40. I
Okay.
said, you know you right, baby, because I was born 40 years old. I
That's
was
right.
never your age.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. It's interesting because I remember, even though I loved being around the old folk, I was one of those that used to have to shush me, boy, don't play, go find a kid and play. But I loved listening to those stories. I
Uh-huh.
loved listening to the conversations because it always pricked
Hmm.
something in me.
Right.
They used to throw, what, get out here, go play. You know, that's what this book reminds me of.
Uh-huh.
Just that it's an every voice, if you will,
Hmm.
that just kind of, you don't have to think too much. If you just read those words, that voice is just taking you right on through. That's
That's right.
excellent writing. Simplicity always
Mm,
works. You know,
absolutely.
you're like, it's not complicated with big words. You got to go find to understand, even though it's very, you're right in many ways. You mentioned, I don't want to get a book word, but you mentioned Shakespeare. You're right. In a very, if I think about his sonnets, you write with that kind of efficiency and that
Thank you.
kind of, yeah, you do. And I really enjoy it because it is very, very plain, simple, everyday language and
Mm.
spirit. It's a wonderful read. I think, no, and I saw it selling all those copies. What it is. Of course, of course it is. So I'm just very proud of you, Carlos. I'm not surprised, and I said it to him when I first started talking to him. I'm not surprised that you're doing any of the things you're doing because that was your spirit as that little boy. And it was the most incredible thing to witness because you had this glow. You really did. It was like there was a little light just following you around. When you were your smile, but you were also very calm and very measured, which you still are. I can see that.
Oh yeah,
And
I try
so,
not to get too excited. Just
yeah.
always have a calm demeanor
Mm-hmm.
because when you grow up in the country around animals, specifically cows, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you get too excited, you know what cows do when you get too
Oh
excited.
boy.
You might create a situation, you
Yeah.
know. And so I think a lot of that is the reason, and I spent a lot of time with my grandfather. I never heard that man raise his voice one time. And he was a
Mm.
judge. And I've never heard him raise
He's
his
a
voice.
judge. Wow.
Not one time. Always calm and always seem to have it collected and together. Never excited.
Yeah. I love that about you write that in your book. The family unit,
Hmm.
that old school Texas family unit like this, you grew up with that and you honor that, you cherish that. Can you share a little bit of how that influenced you and how it influences you even today as you take in on all these nuances in 2023?
I'm gonna tell you one of the simplest things that keep me grounded is my last name and my the heritage lineage that I came from.
Mm-hmm.
Because my grandfather and my dad would always say something along the lines of, "Hey man, you work your whole life to build your name. Don't ruin it."
Mm-hmm.
And so I think about that with regards to them.
Mm-hmm.
How many years it took. So I followed my dad into the rail industry, and I'm fifth generation railroad. And
Wow.
all it took was my
Fifth
dad,
generation railroad. That's awesome.
fifth generation, and all it took was my dad calling somebody saying, "Hey, my son need a job."
Wow.
But and at that time, I didn't really have a understanding. But as the older I get, especially being a black man in America, it take a
Mm-hmm.
long time for you to be able to call somebody and just say, "Give my boy a job."
Absolutely.
You know
Absolutely.
that that's a privilege in itself. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you keep that in mind, um, your walk every day will say, I don't want to ruin that. That's a gift that my father passed down to me. His father passed down to him. Like
Yeah.
that's many, many years of being on the good side of history and doing the right
Mm-hmm.
thing. And
Doing the
so
right thing.
I want to continue the same thing. I want to be able to pass down to my children. I call someone up and say, "Hey, that's my child. Get him a job." It doesn't matter what college they went to or what
Mm-hmm.
previous employment, because it was my child. They can get the job. That means a lot to
That's
me.
right. Yeah.
Or
Well,
or,
you
or
know, on the
home
flip,
loan, or whatever it is. Allow your name to be your credit.
there you go.
And you
On
don't
the
want to
flip
ruin that.
side, that's what they've always done.
That's right.
So that's very, very powerful. Now, because the conversation with is always about healing,
Mm-hmm.
we're healing on so many different levels already in our communities. My goal is to broaden the idea when we say we are healing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to think about a specific thing unless we are. You understand?
Right.
And so, but I always try to tie things back to an event because that's how this evolved. Like
Mm-hmm.
I am in my 7th month of recovery from having a stroke. Glory to God. I'm here. My brain is, I think, even more alert in many, many ways than before the event. So
Good.
I'm physically challenged, but I'm healing. And it
Mm-hmm.
has allowed me not only to understand the magnificence of this body temple, but it has taken me, and I knew coming back, I used to tell the nurses, they used to say, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm old school." I said, "The blessings on the other side of this is what I'm looking forward to."
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And here I am sitting here talking with you after all these years, and we haven't even skimmed the surfaces of the things he's doing to bless and to heal people on so many different levels and so many different walks of life, right? So I'm just kind of overwhelmed at how that full circle
Mm.
is turning. I'm not my event. You understand me? But I have to take responsibility to that.
Mm.
There's no blame or any of that. So for anyone who's listening that is dealing with your event, whatever it is, stroke, aneurysm, diabetes, whatever it is, if you are here and the breath of life is still in you, you are valuable. And so that's
Mm.
why these conversations, I believe, are so invaluable because
Absolutely.
this man deals with the mind, how to use the best parts of what we've been taught. Those
Mm.
5 senses that we've been taught, that much further beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
He is innately teaching and retraining us how to do that, which is so much a part of healing any kind of ailment that we can think of. Starts in the mind. So,
Absolutely.
would you mind sharing? I'm gonna pull something out of the book. You were a teacher. Come on, Gil, go back to it. And
Yeah.
prison system. You were
Uh-huh.
share with us what you did in the state prison system to assist people who are locked up because we get locked up in our brain dealing with certain ailments. And that what
Right.
he was able to do and encourage, help those people see some light or see some hope, which is what we have to hold on to when we're dealing with physical ailments. Shut up,
Mm-hmm.
Gilbert. Would you mind sharing
No,
some of that?
I enjoy hearing you share it because it's important.
It is very
The number one message I tell anyone is you have to be, and you can only be, responsible for you.
mm-hmm.
And if you don't fix you and you make yourself the best you can be, you can't help anyone else. So and don't overstress yourself worrying about whether someone else does the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the best thing you can ever be in life is an example.
Say that again. The
The
best thing
best
to be
thing you
able to
can
what?
ever be in life is an example. So
Go.
if you want to be a good person, you want to see a good person, be one. You know,
Yes.
I want to take it back to you. And until you shared it with me a couple of days ago, I didn't even know how I was chosen to play your grandson.
Ah.
Um, and once you told me that, it made it that much more special. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
because
man,
I and
you
I
are.
I want to go back to how it even happened. So a
Mm-hmm.
couple of weeks ago, my wife and I was watching the Today Show, and they did a special on a guy that does tap dancing in the subway.
Right.
And and I looked at her and I said, "Hey, you know, I used to tap dance," and she think I'm joking. Yeah, yeah, right. I said, "No, I'm serious." I said I was in a play once, and and I told her about it, and she said, "Well, where is Gil now?" Well, Gilbert is what I call. Well,
Right.
where is Gilbert now? I said, I don't know. I never talked to him since we closed that night. I
So,
said, but with every movie I'd watch or something, I would always watch the credits. I said, because surely he's a writer or he's something in the industry. I guarantee you. I said, I promise
oh,
he's
wow.
something in the industry. And she said, well, why don't you try looking him up?
Mm-hmm.
And I that was my mission for that day. I'm gonna find Giver.
Well, I thank God. I'm so happy. Thank his wife. His name is Liz,
Mm-hmm.
and she just feels beautiful. I've seen a picture, but it's magic. I just know that. I'm a
Thank
little
you.
envious, just a tad. No, but I thank Liz for encouraging you. But you don't know how that color said blessed me so. I'm telling you, it took me back to a time in my young life. If I was ever in a place of pure existence,
Mm.
it was during that time. I was very because I was kind of sheltered, even though I did my own little stuff. I was greener than grass,
Mm.
leaving Dallas, the city, even going to other places in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a purity around that process of learning and discovering things.
Mm-hmm.
And then so when you sent me that note, it's man, it just so I started calling classmates, reminding them because we all love you. You were such a bright joy and those weeks for us. Because we were one of the first uh, African American classes at London.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so getting on stage was a big to do. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of work on stage. We did a lot of classroom work. We worked on crews. You understand? But
Mm-hmm.
being on stage in a role
Right.
that wasn't a big role, if that's
Mm-hmm.
said, that was a big deal. And then for them to bring you in, all of them talking about purity, all that just organic sense of self and creativity. God knew He had something special for you, and we all saw it. I had no clue what it was going to be. I said, whatever He is, I know He's doing something magical. He
Mm-hmm.
cannot not be doing something magical
Right.
because that's who you were. And we loved you. You were so gifted and so
Mm.
good in that role. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
even know if you had a name. I just remember the was that a character name for you?
If it was, I don't remember.
No, because I think they called you boy, and
I
I
think so.
never used it.
I
I'm
think so.
not calling him boy. I don't give him if I'm a slave. That's my grand. So I wrote. That's my grandson. I put
Uh-huh. Yep.
because that was a moment I was supposed to call you boy. Come here.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm sorry. I don't care what period it was. I wasn't doing that. You were my grandson. So anyway.
But
Uh,
it's great you bring that up because when I talk to students and just people in general. And we talk about the experience in the Black community,
Mhm.
and I have a hard time recalling any types of things I was deprived just because I was Black. You
Mhm.
know, as a matter of fact, I had advantages, and maybe it was because I was Black.
Right.
And you
Right.
just spoke of one, as you said, that college was historically known as a super lily white school.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
for you, and probably the first Blacks to ever, lead
Yeah,
in,
the first
in
class was in 1978. Out of
see,
all the history of that school,
yeah,
1977, 78, the early part of 77, graduating in 78.
mm-hmm.
Well, no, I'm wrong. It was 76.
76.
Graduated in 77 because I came in a lot of part in 77.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we were actually the second class of African Americans in the theater school.
Right.
Now may have been one or two in other departments of the school, because there were all these different curriculums.
Mm-hmm.
Very concentrated school. I was very impressed with that.
Mm-hmm.
But they were about to lose some monies, so they had to integrate.
Mm-hmm.
They had to keep from uh, some of the private donors had kind of died off, and the children were
Yep.
not willing to do the same thing the same way. So they had to branch out and start getting
That's
additional
right.
donors. Right. As
But it's just an example of what God has for you.
right,
Man can't stop that.
nothing can stop that. It's
Can't nothing stop that.
hello.
And so I tell kids, don't have in your mind the things you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. Whatever
No,
God has for you, it's gonna happen.
that's right.
You
And
know,
can't never could do nothing.
that's right. That's right. And if it doesn't, that wasn't for you.
That's right.
It's possibly the protection of protecting you from something that you didn't need.
Come on
So
now.
yeah, don't don't
Yeah.
don't don't get discouraged or halt your mission
Mm-hmm.
because of what you thought was good for you. Uh,
Right, right, right,
but
right.
but
I
and
love
look,
it.
just look how the ball just keeps on rolling. And I've had, as you read in the book, I've had obstacles and challenges that came
Yeah.
about, and as I continue to persevere, something greater came
Something
from
great
it
always
every
came.
single
See?
time. And so that has been a mindset that I've adopted my whole life.
Mhm.
And I think the greater came from it because I didn't allow whatever negative happened to hinder me
In
or
fact,
make me want to stop.
yes. Absolutely.
And so you have to keep going. And another thing I tell you, you have to do your part. you know,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be prepared for the blessings that if you pray for it, be ready for it. You
Right.
know,
There we go.
but
Okay.
but you have people they pray for something and God bless them, and then they can't maintain it
Right.
because
Right.
you
Because
know
they went with that. They didn't
you know
strengthen their arms to
that's
take
right.
hold of it.
Yeah,
You,
concentrated too much on the wedding and not enough on the
right,
marriage.
right, right, right. But you gotta ask with confidence. You gotta be what you just said. You got to be ready to receive, because
Mm-hmm.
God don't play. Sometimes he's the boom here. I
That's
mean,
right.
you need it. And other
Yeah.
times it's like, well, okay, I got you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
be patient. Keep living. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So, and that's a school of thought growing up in Texas. My mom used to always say, as opposed to admonishing me or trying to, because when you're growing up as men, you kind of have that, and we were always told, tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Or they should have told me that, because I was a very precocious kid, and I would ask all kind of questions, and so my opinion was kind of strong. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I thought I knew, like nobody in the world could tell me that I didn't know this. Especially my mother. My father would kind of be different, but my mother, she would look at me and she would say, "Keep living." She would just say, "Keep living." You understand? So
Yeah.
now that I'm sick, I'll be 64 in August. Praise God, I'm blessed. I laugh at myself because I hear those things, those little anecdotes that they gave me.
Mm-hmm. Keep living.
Keep living, you know. And I laugh because I hear my mother's voice reminding me of things. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
When I'm thinking about them, I'm dealing with some issues that I'm trying to sort out the best way to deal with, particularly being on this side of this event.
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to have our outpatient therapy. Everything that I've done has been because of the creative processes that I've lived through. All the dancing, all that sweat and tears, that muscle memory is still in my body. So
Mm-hmm.
I got out of rehab in December of last year. I've been just doing what I want to do. God said, boy, get in there and do you know what you get in there and relax and find your muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've been doing. But now he has blessed me to have uh, uh, scripts written from my neurologist for outpatient rehab. So
Well.
what's for you in the cycle of being obedient to what you're going through, what I like to say we're going through,
Mm-hmm.
that's the preparation. You said being prepared, being ready. I'm
Yeah.
ready for that. I can talk to the PT and the OT now and say, well, this is what I believe my body needs. What is your expert opinion? You understand? I
Mm-hmm.
can take something in as opposed to just, being at the mercy of someone who knows
Right.
nothing about my physicality or my history. So, speaking of which, you are a veteran.
Yes, sir.
And why am I screaming like you way over there? Hey, would you mind sharing? Because we're always talking about healing. What are some of the anecdotes or some of the things you discovered being in the military? And I know that must have been such an interesting and challenging mental manipulation.
Mm.
I have a lot of vets in my family. And sometimes I have to just understand
Mm-hmm.
that they are still, some of them are still processing or, you know, decompressing certain things. But in the military, because I know you probably saw a lot of different mental uh, attitudes and
Oh, absolutely.
how were
Yeah.
you able to maneuver through that, holding on to your identity, your upbringing, your that spiritual groundedness as it relates to you doing the kinds of things you are doing now? Because I know that must have been an awesome challenge against the grain for your spirit.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I joined, I met several Gilberts. I'll say that.
Oh,
I
really?
met a bunch
Oh,
of more
boy.
Gils.
But I don't think I'm
So,
getting used to it. No.
so when I joined because I didn't want to go to college, and
Oh,
my
okay.
mama didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. She was so upset.
Mom,
She had
that's
it
mom.
set.
I
She said, "You
remember
going to Georgia Tech? You gonna be an electrical engineer?"
So they had it all planned. I
She
know.
had it all planned, but she checked with everybody but me.
Right. Oh, see, you sound a lot like me.
So I told her in May of my senior year that I wanted to go to the military, and yeah, she was pretty upset. But from the time I joined, the guy that I went to MEPS there in Dallas, and the guy he was the yeoman, which is like the secretary that does all your paperwork,
Right.
was a black
Okay.
guy at that MEP station.
Okay.
And so he processed me and did all that. I go to boot camp, go to A school, and we get assigned our ships. Well, I was at home from A school when they called and said, "Hey, we got good news and bad news. Good news, you get to stay home 2 more weeks. Bad news, you going to the Persian Gulf War
Oh,
because
wow.
the
All
ship,
right.
yeah, the ship you've been assigned to is already, they're already in the Gulf." So
Oh,
his name Petty Officer Blair. So I report to my ship in the middle of the night, and it's nobody other than Petty Officer Blair, the same guy that processed my paperwork
yeah.
every
Oh,
day.
wow.
And
Wow.
so, yeah, he's from the Dallas area, and he was married with 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
So he being a part of his family made it easier for me to be away from home. So I
Okay.
spent, the
Oh,
major holidays that I wasn't able to come home and whatnot,
mm-hmm.
I spent them with his family.
Mm-hmm.
And even on the ship when we were underway, during holidays and whatnot. He served as like a big brother to me to just kind of, help me understand and make it easier, make the process easier.
Yes, yes,
And
sir.
so I had that blessing for 2 years. And then my next duty station, I met another black guy from LA, Senior Chief Williams.
Okay.
Same thing. He just
Same thing. See
he
that?
still live in Japan. He never came back. He was married, wife, 3 kids, and he
Mm-hmm.
had been there at that time about 15, 16 years. It
16
was, I
years
mean, it
old.
was, yeah,
Japan
it was
is
home.
nice,
It was
though.
home for him. But he was from Compton, uh, LA, and he said he stayed there because all the guys he graduated with were dead. He said,
Mm.
man, the ones that stayed there died drugs or gang violence.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh,
Yeah, he said, so rather than go home once a year, I fly my parents here once a year.
I know.
And but
I know
he
that.
same
You're
thing.
gonna die. I know. We're gonna die.
Yeah. So same
I
thing
know.
at that duty station. He took me in and as a a young guy and just guided me and advised me. So I just been blessed to have that type of mentorship
Mm-hmm.
uh everywhere I've gone. So the military, he was probably the biggest influence because by the time I reached that duty station, I had made a petty officer. So now I'm in a leadership position,
Right, right.
and I tell anybody the hardest place to be a supervisor is the military because
Mm.
just Friday you may have been cutting up with them guys, and Monday you become their supervisor, and so and you definitely get the pushback of, well, man, you used to do it,
Right,
and
right,
so
right,
and so you have to kind of become a different person, but you're still their friends, and
right.
he taught me how to do that, and all of us. He said, hey man, y'all can't make it hard on Carlos because if you do, there won't be another Carlos. Like,
Exactly.
who
See?
you want in charge? The person that don't care about you or the person that do?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I carry that with me now because I think one of the hardest
Oh,
struggles we have is we don't view ourselves as owners and leaders.
mm.
We look at ourselves as workers and borrowers, and I'm like,
Yeah,
no, you too can be the owner. You
yeah,
know,
when we had help, even though that's not an excuse anymore.
that's right, that's right. It's it,
We're unlearning those kinds of things, which is
yeah,
not
it's
intelligent,
always a way. It's
but so
always a way.
powerful.
Always
Say
a way.
that one more time for those who may have drifted.
It's always a way.
There's
You
always a
just
way.
don't focus on what's holding you back.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on how you're going to overcome it
Right.
because that's what our ancestors did. Like they faced something way greater than what we face.
Woo!
You know,
Come on
we
now.
you see people complain about how hot it is, but they going into a house with air
With
conditioning.
air conditioning.
my, my, my,
Or in a car. With air,
hey,
you know, come on.
or even have a car.
Yeah.
Even have
Right.
a car. And
Right.
listen, my great grandparents, they never had a car. They never had
Mm-hmm.
air conditioning. And that's how my grandfather grew up. And again, I remind you, I never heard this man raise his voice. I've never heard him complain because he knew where he came from was way worse than where he is. And we have to always keep that in mind. If your mission continue to be forward,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be just fine. It's not
Yeah.
to say it's not going to be some bends in the road, but
Right.
make sure you still continue in the forward
Continue.
direction.
Oh,
You know.
I love that. And people who are dealing with recovery, what he just spoke is
Mm-hmm.
what you heard me try to drill time and time again. We are not our events,
Mm-hmm.
whatever they are. We have survived the worst part of that.
That's right.
So now it's about moving forward
That's right.
by any well-to-do means necessary. Our PTs and our OTs are only there to facilitate.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be the champion of your own recovery. It
That's
starts with
correct.
me. If I'm sitting around and I thank God for those who may be really, really struck physically by whatever your ailment was. So you may not be able to do a whole lot, but your mind is still alert. If you are doing it in your mind, if your
Mm-hmm.
brain is engaging those things, it is speeding something to your physical body.
That's right.
And I'm telling you, the power of the human spirit will amaze you. So I'm harping on this because I want us all to get back to whatever that percentile is going to be, and beyond, right? So we've got to make sure that we maintain it here and then echo it here.
Right. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and go on. You were saying, Carlos, this is powerful, man.
We were talking about moving forward, and so I'm gonna spoil it for you. But the last chapter is entitled "Forward."
Yes.
And it basically breaks down all of the lessons that are in the book. And I'm encouraging the reader now take all of that and move forward with it.
See that?
And because that's really what it's all about. It's a passage in there. I say it's a reason that rearview mirrors are smaller than windshields. Because that windshield is for moving forward, and that rearview mirror, it's only there to make sure the coast is clear when you change lanes. Right. It ain't there for you to look back. It's there to make sure the coast is clear when you change lanes.
I love it.
You still continue to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about.
I love it. Now, there's so many different facets to this, brother. I love it. So, Carlos, you blow my mind. And the more I read, and I've always read, I'm going to read it again because I like to digest again and again. It's just my way. But you are just an everyman, if I've ever known you. And it's such a loving root that you're speaking from. So I want to talk about a little bit more about your family, particularly your mom. Unfortunately, I never met his dad, but your mom and her quiet regalness spoke volumes. And she rarely said too many words. She said, anyway, she would sit and watch, and she talked to Miss A, and then she got compelled up to go and do her thing and come back. Right? But while she was there, I never not knew she was in the room. And she was quiet. What kind of, I can just imagine, the kinds of, that kind of embracing and encouragement and love that she imparted in you. You mind sharing some of that? Because some of us have never really experienced that directly from perhaps a parent or, And so I want to make us all feel like we are part of something bigger than what we've known, especially now moving forward, right? So whatever you feel comfortable sharing with us about the relationship between you and your mom.
Yeah, right. So I'll start with the play. So Mrs. Alexander, I think was her name. So when she came to my class and asked the teacher if I could step out, and she wanted to talk to me about the play, and of course I'm 8, 9 years old. I had no idea. I was 8. I turned 9 during the week of the production.
I remember that. I had a cake back then.
And so she was asking me if I would be interested. And I said, well, I got to talk to my mama about it. And so I go home and, I had the note or whatnot to share with my mama. She said, oh, yeah, you can do it. And you're going to be ready. So I was practicing before I ever even met the cast.
Really? Oh, wow. I love it.
Because my mother says, listen, wherever you go and whatever you do, you will be prepared. So that's period. This is the same lady that made me wear a suit and tie to a McDonald's interview when I was 15. You're gonna be prepared. But that's how she lived. She died at 47, very early age. And maybe that was her reason for not putting off tomorrow what you should be doing today.
Yeah.
She didn't believe in procrastinating. She didn't believe in waiting for later. I remember in high school, I had an assignment, and it was about a 6 or 8 week assignment. And So let's say it's September. Well, I don't. It's not due to December 1st.
Right. Right.
Well, no, not with Alice. You're gonna start today. you know, because
Right.
that's just how
That's how
she.
she rolls. I love
Yeah, yeah. You don't. There. We're not waiting till Thanksgiving holiday to do the assignment that's due on
it.
December 1st. You're gonna start now. And I still have that same disposition when I approach different tasks as far as any type of assignments or lectures. I start right now, in preparation because you just don't know what might come about
Right. Right. Right.
between here and there. But when that date comes, I'll still be ready.
And that's
So that's important.
that's powerful. And it's the same thing with the healing process of physical ailments.
Mm-hmm.
I notwithstanding those who are quote unquote maybe bedridden or really paralyzed, in that greater capacity. Uh, I thank God for those people too, because they're still here, and there's a reason for that. But as we think of healing, because I was in a facility that was very encouraging,
Mm.
very, very. But some of the people, it's funny how your spirit just kind of maneuvers a certain way that pulls you into it.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself just there all of a sudden, in doing being a group leader, whatever, just instinctively because that's just me. My personality is one of inclusion. I want people to do good. I want you to no, but look at this. What about this? Something else, anything else. But that worries me kind of downer kind of thing. I've never been one for riding that wave too long. Not that
Mm-hmm.
I have done it. So, but out of all that positivity, all those nurses and practitioners are giving these people, many of them, for whatever their, because you never know people's walks. I didn't know their lives, but we all had similar events. But some of us were able to kind of look at it from a different perspective in terms of who we are and what we are. That we're alive. For me, I was so happy to be alive. Man, they gave it to me. I didn't have time for anything else but to celebrate. I'm thanking God every day for being
Mm-hmm.
able to just, you know. But the difference and reason why I'm saying this, the differences are as vast as leaves on a tree in terms of individual personalities and how we all process, how we all deal with certain things. But as we listen to Carlos, he's talking about military things and his family things. That thread that links the mindset of healing is almost identical, right? And so, what I'm hoping to do with some of this is to encourage those who are listening. Include yourself in that thread.
Mm-hmm.
That is a part of your. That is a part of your now blessing, whatever that means to you. But if we allow those darker colors, if you will, to overcome our abilities to see something else or be encouraged by something else, then we're walking in on that hamster wheel of
Mm-hmm.
going, we're going through the same thing every day. And that's very powerful if we're looking forward, if we're challenging ourselves to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of overcoming, Carlos,
Yes, sir.
you live in Houston, and some of y'all may not know Houston. Houston is a very big state,
Oh yeah.
city. It's in the state of Texas at all. But it's a ginormous city full of wonderful, wonderful things now in particular. But it can be very challenging because everything is very spread out,
Yeah.
right? As an artist, because I'm an artist, he's an artist by nature, but he's using his creativity in a whole other kind of capacity. And what he has discovered, on one hand, being back in Houston, is that there's a great movement of artistic prowess developing in Houston.
Absolutely.
And the power of the spoken word, poetry,
Mm.
all those kinds of things, people who, the rap artists, they all pull from that old school poets
Absolutely. Yep.
who used to, whether they're doing it with jazz and the bebop, it's all there. And that is a very vibrant language for young people now in 2023. They're becoming more attuned to that. I'm not a rap artist by any means, but I know that it is a dynamic thread that is holding these young people together. These millennials are catching hold of it and catching fire with it, which is another level of healing for us as a people. Carlos has produced a documentary all on the art of spoken word and poetry that is just catching fire, and it's linking a lot of young people and older people alike. But there's a voice and a spirit and a symmetry of healing that I would like for you to share a little bit about that, Carlos.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It's PENS, PNS, poetic energy needed in society. So
it's called what?
PENS, poetic energy needed in society.
Poetic energy needed in society. All right. Go on, yes.
So my camera guy, my film photog, Mikhail Limbrick Fetty, we've been producing shows for about 15 years.
Okay.
But just prior to the pandemic, he and I had this wild idea. I said, man, we need to start capturing some of this and share it with the world. It's just, this is too good. These artists are too talented. The message is too great to just keep it here in Houston. And so we started. The show first, we filmed that, and then lo and behold, the pandemic happened. So that disrupted us just a little bit. But as we got that figured out, I was then living in New York, and so we were over the phone every day just trying to figure out, well, what can we do to just continue to move forward with this project? Like,
always about moving forward. Right?
That's right. We're not going to let the current conditions of the world stop us from what our mission is. And who's to say we may not come out on the other end of this mess, So more importantly, we need to finish. And so from there, it changed a little bit of the direction of the documentary, because what we wanted to do was capture a lot of B-roll with regards to a lot of the smaller open mics and whatnot. Because the film we did was at the Improv, so we're talking 500 people at a poetry show, and for a traditional poetry show, people, it's usually not in that capacity. It's usually in a smaller, 50, maybe 75 people max. And so we wanted to capture some of the essence of that, but because of COVID, a lot of those were closed down. And so we had to revert to more interviews, which actually, it somewhat worked out even better. But we definitely have ideas, and we've already started on the filming of the next one. So we did a rooftop show here at Post Houston on the roof last October. So that'll be the setting for it. That's where the performances happen. Now we're working on the layers to go with it, but part 2 should be coming out probably sometime next year.
I love it. So now, and I may be pricking the fire here, but no, is there any talk anywhere, whisper, a nudge about the possibility of linking tri-state areas of Texas, Dallas, San Antonio, to try to really. Um, I know Houston is ground zero. Is it too soon, perhaps, to think
No,
in terms of?
no, it's not too soon. It's so with artists is are very big with ego, so that
You think?
so artists so I understand a hesitation from some artists, say in Dallas, and we've even talked to some in Oklahoma City,
Mm-hmm.
Tulsa, um, Atlanta, and Birmingham, and the shared hesitation is, well, is my city gonna get the same kind of shine? Which is, I understand,
Okay.
because if I was being included in something from another city, I want to have an understanding of how Houston would be represented.
Well,
So,
yeah. Okay, I get
so
that. I get that. But that's a producer's job. The
correct.
artist should not. That is not their concern. You're gonna get your shine by being you, being
Right,
the best
right.
at what you do. That is that's.
Hmm.
But now I get it because most artists are also themselves producers because they're always trying to. They have to sell themselves to,
Right.
other whatever. But
But
in this
ironically,
instance,
those are the ones I don't have problems with. The ones that are producers and artists, because they understand
I understand the process.
front and behind the camera,
Mm-hmm.
and they understand the monetary sacrifice.
Right,
For
right.
those that are just artists, they generally don't understand. They
Okay.
don't understand
That's a
why
part
you
of the
can.
education too, isn't it?
Right,
And
right.
so that's what I love about what you do. He also educates artists because as an artist myself, I love creating, and I would create just because it keeps me sane.
Hmm.
I know that there's money being made, and I like money. I love access to money, but I'm just one of those people. It sometimes take a different seat
Hmm.
because the process of being I love the art in me, not so much myself in the art, which
Hmm.
is a delicate balance. Because as much as I love making money doing what I do it because I have to. I do
Hmm.
it because it's who I am. It's my life. It's my lifeblood, if you will. I can only go so long in the week without doing something creative, something to
Hmm.
stimulate and open a new window of life, whatever. I don't even know how to describe it sometimes. But that's a rarity in terms of commercialism. It's
Hmm.
a people, artists want to get paid. And I
That's
don't
right.
blame
That's
them.
right.
It's like,
Yes.
look, how are we gonna bring this to the dollars? You
Right.
understand?
Yeah. It's
And
called
you
show business for a reason.
right. But you
But
educate people, which is
yeah, I
another
do.
part of the healing. You
Hmm.
you want to talk a little bit about that with artists who may be listening. Uh, and when they and he has a production company
Hmm.
that I did. I'm like, okay, all right, blew my mind. That is really blowing up. Has blown up, but becoming universal and a
Hmm.
household name. So if I'm not talking too much, they
No,
spoil
no.
you too much. Please share with us.
Well,
What-
the reason I try to educate the artists about the business is because, fortunately, I've been blessed enough with past decisions that monetarily today I'll be fine if I don't make one penny off the show.
Mhm.
So I don't have a problem with giving artists opportunity to earn as much pop as they want to make on any show.
Mhm.
But you have to have a full understanding of how that's attainable. You
Right,
know, um, I know they think that just one day they're gonna show up and people just gonna shower them with money. Well, I'm here
right.
to tell you, it's not gonna happen. Um, no, no. They listen. The industry pick who they want to shower with money.
Absolutely.
and they have their reasons why they pick that person is linked to something else or to someone
Mhm.
else and so forth. So rarely is it about your talent.
Right.
Unfortunately,
It-
rarely is it about
No.
talent. And the two of the reasons I love spoken word performance and comedy is because those are like the last two pure art forms that
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be filtered, because when you're on a movie set or a TV show, you literally reading the words that somebody told you to read.
Right.
And with regards to music, what goes in the booth may not be what come out of the booth, you
Hello.
know. But with regards to that comedian and that uh, poet, it's just them and the mic.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And you can say whatever the audience can't want to hear, like, you know what I mean. And you have the possibility of bringing them into your world and sharing something that they didn't know.
Right.
And there is no one there to stop you as long as it's in your art form, and you can perform that night in, night out, every day. And I think there's something magical in that. Um,
Yes.
as artists, it's amazing because artists will quit a job to become an artist with the hopes of getting a job. Like,
Yeah. Hey, guilty.
yeah,
That's
and
how
and
I.
and yeah, and most of the time, in the wrong situation, a job is the worst thing for an artist because they're gonna box you up. They're gonna tell you what you can and can't say. Now you become limited, and when you limit an
You took
artist,
that
it's
right
not
out
an
of my
art.
brain. It's limiting.
You know,
And an artist, pure artist, uh, we are free spirits.
that's right.
We cannot past the point be confined to
Hmm.
any rigid, you know, boundary. It just doesn't work well
Hmm.
for an artist. Now, I'm not talking about people who love to be creative, but a
You're
real
right. No, yeah, yeah,
artist,
correct.
you got you. So my mom in particular, saw that in me very early. I didn't know I was going to be whatever. You know, I grew up Kojic. I knew church and gospel music.
That's right. Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and the back of a pew. Get the seat. Get the seat. People
that's
shouting, get
right.
confused.
Same
That's
here.
all I
Yeah.
knew. That's all I knew. I learned about all this other stuff, theater, all of that. I learned about theater when I was actually a sophomore in high school. Actually, the latter part of my name
Yeah.
we used to do. But growing up, we would do what was called oratorical contests.
Hmm.
In grade school, the teacher would pick one student to learn a poem, one from each class, and they would do it all on a program. They give people trophies or medals or whatever. I always had. I mean, I was the best in the class, but when it came time to actually doing it, I can do it, right?
Right. Right.
And just my nerves would be, and my voice would be all. But later on, it made sense to me because being in the band, I was in music all my life.
Hmm.
So being in the band, particularly when we got into the marching band, it freed me of all those
Right.
insecurities and all that anxiety that I was holding on to because a lot
Hmm.
of times I didn't understand some of the stuff that was going on in me. What the hell is that? I didn't say that,
Hmm.
but you wonder
Right.
what all this stuff is and dealing with other issues. But once I was able to discover that I had all this capacity, I'm like, oh, okay. That's why then you understand why certain teachers would pull at you to
Right.
get you to try to do certain things. So
Hmm.
enough by me. Back to you.
Hmm.
So what's happening with producing the spoken word and the poetry now? You say you did a recent rooftop. That sounds exciting.
Yes.
Recording, and it's coming. You think it's going to be available to be seen next year or end of this
I
year?
hope. I hope so. Well, we just wrapped a feature film, "A House Without a Father,"
Okay.
and amazing story. But in
House
the
without
film,
a father.
and it came from a play that I wrote that we performed
Wait, back
through
up,
poetry. Yeah.
back up.
I need to send that to you. I had it on YouTube to play, but we took it off when the playwright, screenwriter came to me about making it a movie. So I pulled it
Yes,
down, and so we just finished wrapping that, filming it as a movie. I'm going to send you the play,
brother.
and but so the
But see,
play
I'm
is
telling y'all, hey, Carlos Wallace, y'all, I'm telling you. And every man of 2023, you are modern day every man. It's
thank you,
magical. It's magical.
thank you. But all the parts are spoken in spoken word. There's no just
Okay.
regular talking. All the exchanges is through poetry.
Okay.
And it's a single mother, and her poems, of course, are about the struggles of being a single mom. And hey, I
Yeah.
didn't sign up for this. Where did this come from? And she has three daughters, and their
All
poetry
right.
is about the struggle, being bullied, being taken advantage of, being molested, and
Mm-hmm.
the anger of dad not being around.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a layer. I have a school counselor, a young man. He plays the counselor. The two girls have a fight, and he's counseling them through poetry. And then there's a
Wow.
part where she goes to the bank and she's denied the loan for the home, and then she go to church and the pastor prays with her through poetry. Like, it's all through poetry.
That's powerful,
And
man.
so what we did, a screenwriter, she took it and wrote us a script for a
Yeah,
movie just from that play.
I love
And
it.
so we shot that February through April, and I just looked at the first quarter
Spike
of
Lee, y'all better look out.
it.
Carlos Wallace is coming.
But the first quarter, I like it. It looks amazing. And shout out to Fetty. That guy, like, he's an amazing guy.
Okay.
And I that one will be ready first,
Okay.
because I it's again it shows and displays the art,
Mm-hmm.
and what we're gonna do in the movie. So the scene exchanges, instead of it being music, it's gonna be spoken word.
Right.
You
Right.
know.
I love it. So now, because we a little over an hour, and I don't want to just abuse your time of giving and sharing, because we can always do this again.
Okay.
Uh, but to recap, uh, Carlos Weiss, a native Texan from Jacksonville, Texas, in
Right. Yeah.
East Texas, now residing in Houston, author, playwright, producer, mentor, inspirational speaker. We didn't talk about that. Really briefly, you go around, you're called on to go and speak to colleges, classes, and job sites, and all of
Yes,
these
sir.
things as an inspirational speaker slash mentor.
Hmm.
Would you mind sharing with us how that process helped you maintain the art of healing in conversation
Mm.
everywhere you go, and how it helps you educate and reiterate everywhere you go, that process?
It's funny. I appreciate that question, because
Mm-hmm.
it's never been asked before. How is that a part of your healing?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Early in my railroad career, when my grandmother's sister passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and I loved her dearly, but she was probably the least person that you would think would have an impact on me in
Mm-hmm.
regards to passing away. And shortly after, I had an incident at work. And so, as an engineer, when you have an incident, they send you to counseling for at least 72 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be out 72 hours, and you have to go to counseling 3 days straight. So 96 hours. So I go, and the first day I'm talking to the counselor, and she said, "Mr. Wallace, you know what your problem is?" And I'm thinking, I didn't know I had a problem until I got home.
Right.
She
Excuse
she
me.
said, she said, "You just need somebody to talk to." She said, "You shared more with me just sitting in here. I didn't even have to ask you the questions." She said, "You've been balling all."
I
So, so
love it.
coming full circle, a lot of times when I'm in a speaking engagement, what I'm sharing is a part of my healing and something that I needed to share.
Right.
It definitely helped me with regards to when my mother passed away,
Mm-hmm.
because I my number one mission when she passed away was for her memories to not go in the hole with her, and
Yes. I hear
all
that.
the work she had done. And so I began the mission of speaking about my mama, and how you better appreciate your mama, because one day she's gonna be gone. You know, like,
Yes, Lord.
and I, even now when I hear people complain about their mom, as we get older in age, oh man, I got to go over here. My mom, I say, hey man, you better appreciate that,
Lord,
because there's gonna be a day when you wish that phone would ring, you know,
telling you
and
that.
I can't stress that enough. So, in speaking about what I do, as you know, I mean, I talk to you almost every day since. I rarely talk about my accomplishments because that don't mean nothing, Hey,
It's
it,
about destroying
it ain't no trophy case
and like
in that casket. you know, ain't no
it
trophy
is
case.
not. It's
That, you know what I mean? And it ain't no bunk beds in there. So
right.
you by yourself with just yourself. So
You're
you
right.
better like
Right.
you. Uh, but so I rarely ever talk about that. When people want to know about what I've done or things I accomplished, I go to my website. Because it's just hard for me. I guess it's that East
Speaking of
Texas
which,
humble.
make sure
You
we
know,
say that your website, and I will put it there for a
CarlosWallace.com.
proposal.
It's easy. Yeah, it's
What is
easy.
it?
CarlosWallace.com.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, it's easy.
CarlosWallace.com. And
Yeah.
that'll be when this is, I'll make sure they've missed it there.
Okay. But
So, yeah.
but yeah, that's that. I'm glad you asked it, because that is healing. So I would encourage everyone to do that. Is someone next to you, across the street, or wherever, your voice could be the reason they want to wake up tomorrow.
Mm.
So don't
So,
be afraid to share that.
yeah. That's awesome. Well, while God is saying, applauding you, you hear the thunder,
Thank
you're like, yeah, that's it. I hear you. I ain't mad.
you.
Well, Carl, I am just over the moon, proud.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You are here, man. You are here.
Thank you.
And I'm just, like I say, I'm not surprised. I'm
Mm,
pleasantly, woo, it's just one of those things you go, oh man, that's Carl. That's
thank you.
my little grandson.
Thank you.
I love,
One more thing I want to share before I
yes,
go.
sir.
So in the book, there's a chapter where I say, in the fourth grade, I was voted president of junior historians. That was the first time my peers voted me as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
1 year prior to that, I was in a play as your grandson, and that obviously prepared me for leadership and to run for president. So thank you.
Oh, wow. Well, you're welcome, man. But you were so, any producer, any director would have loved you because you just had a magnet that people who knew talent and knew genius and knew creativity would always be attracted to you.
Thank you.
That's what Miss A was, one of those innate hypersensitive spirits. She could look at a person and just know that there was so much going on with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I got it. She came up to my job in Dallas and auditioned me for that school. I didn't know who she was or who she was. There was something different about these two white people
Right.
walking up to me. But she was that kind of woman. She would call us in our office, or me in particular, and just talk to me about life. Things that a lot of people wouldn't have said to a black boy sitting in front of her desk.
Right.
But she wanted me to understand the value of where I was at the time. So when you reached back to me, it brought all of those wonderful things back to mind. So I thank you for getting back in touch with me. I'm so thankful that you did, and I'm just in love with you all over again.
Thank you.
All the brilliance that you sharing, teaching others to tap into their own brilliance. We all have something magical that we can give. That
Absolutely.
we can place somewhere in this universe. But we have to be trained to do that. We have to understand it's safe to do that, which is why I'm doing these kinds of things. I want to encourage you too. I want you to have a safe place online you can come to, and if you just need to sit and listen to me,
absolutely,
or if you just need to hear whatever, if you need to just be quiet, that you feel safe enough that you can come to this place and do that. So I love you, man. I want to thank you.
I love you too.
Again, CarlosWallace.com.
Yes, sir.
This website, I will make sure that's posted. This man is doing incredible things. Guys, we didn't even, it's so much more. And I'm just over the moon. Thank you all for welcoming him.
Yes, thank you.
And for taking
Allow me in your space.
And thank you all for tuning into this episode of Conversation With. And we will see you right back here the next time for the next edition of Conversation With. Brother Gil love you. God love you too. Let's say good night to Brother Carlos. We love you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, man. Give my love to Liz and his family.
Absolutely.
We will be talking soon.
Yes, sir.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.